Welcome to the Bimhunter Hive podcast, where you listen to interesting fictional stories from aspiring authors for your listening pleasure and relaxation.
Hi everyone, welcome to Bimhunter Hive Storytelling Podcast, where stories open doors to conversation we often avoid. I'm Omobolanle, and with me is...
Solulokbay.
Before we introduce today's topic, I'll be sharing with us a fictional story titled The Chapters You Don't See. So here goes the story. Maya had just had a Heidi badge as she walked into the office. As a senior clerk, she kept the files moving, kept the systems running, and carried responsibilities that often went unnoticed. Yet, what her colleagues noticed most was her lateness on mornings. They whispered, "She's not serious. At a level, she should be more disciplined." No one asked why. No one knew that she had been up the night before, reworking an application for yet another internal role. Roles she never seemed to land. They didn't know about the transitions that slowed her climb. Shifting from education to admin, then into clerical work. Each switch had been necessary for survival, but each one had cost her years of seniority. To her peers, it looked like she was stuck in the same spot. Still a clerk after all these years. To Maya, it was great. The courage to keep starting over. A week later, her cousin announced his promotion to manager. The family chat lit up with emojis and applause. Someone typed, "Maya, when will it be your turn? You're both the same age." She congratulated him warmly, but inside, the comparison stung. They didn't see the exams she had sat for and failed, only to sit again. They didn't see the jobs she had lost, the skills she had painstakingly retrained for, or the moment she chose stability over prestige because bills had to be paid. They only saw her cousin's success and her delay. At church, they said she was too quiet. She's unfriendly. She never shares her plans. What they didn't know was that she used to, until people turned her openness into gossip, until betrayers taught her silence. Her reserve wasn't pride, it was protection. Maya's wins weren't shiny, but they were real. Wins like finally clearing her debts. Wins like passing her certification after failing twice. Wins like showing up to work, still giving her best, despite the disappointments. But nobody asked, nobody saw. One day, meeting an old classmate at the bus stop, he hid her shoes, a modest bag, and then his shiny new car. He smiled pityingly. "You should have pushed harder, Maya. At your age, you should be further along." She smiled back, but inside a voice rose. "You don't know my story. You don't know the rejections, the sacrifices, the scars that taught me caution. You don't know the weight of survivor carried quietly. And you don't know that in my steady, ordinary steps, I'm still winning." So here comes the reflection of the story. This story isn't about excuses or complacency. It's about perspective. Success is not one size fits all, and judgment without context is cruelty. Yes, accountability matters. We must strive, take responsibility, and grow. But we must also learn to honor progress, not just outcomes. Celebrate resilience, not just speed. And in today's social media era, this is more urgent than ever. People are judged in seconds by posts, likes, or titles without context, without history, without empathy. Snap judgments have replaced compassion. That's why we must learn to see beyond the surface Because behind every title, behavior, or pace lies a story unseen. And sometimes the quietest victories are the greatest ones. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay tuned.
Stories are not just told, they are lived, felt, and remembered. Every pause holds a heartbeat, every word leaves a trace. Stories are not just told, they are lived, felt, and remembered. Every pause holds a heartbeat, every word leaves a trace. La 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 la.
Welcome back from the short break. So today's episode is titled A Dive into Judgment, Contentment, and Success. A dive into judgment, contentment, and success.
That story gave me chills.
Exactly.
We often do this, we look at people's possession, their car, social media feed, and we make the absolute judgment instantly.
Absolutely to Lokbe. And in Maya's case, people judge her for being just a senior clerk after so many years without knowing the career shifts, the sacrifices, the rejection she had to endure. It wasn't failure to me, from what I've seen. It was survival.
But this is where the danger lies. When we only measure people by outcomes, salary, promotions, possessions, we miss the context, I must tell you.
have a point there.
We end up punishing people for not matching our timeline of success. And you tend to look down on people based on all these things that are frivolities. Or will I say, do not determine your worth. Not necessarily frivolities, we need them, okay? But they do not determine your worth as a person.
Absolutely. And worse, we create pressure, family chats, friends, comments, even workplace whispers. People carry these judgments like heavy bags. They take it personal. So, and in the social media era, it's even worse. You just see people's snapshots. That's just a snapshot of their life. It's not the entirety. And, people now judge in seconds from highlight reels without asking what it looked to get there. Because it's just highlights from the description, from the name itself is highlights. So, but it doesn't mean that's the way your entire life is.
Yes, I agree with that. We forget that what we see online is not the full story. It's curated, it's content. And sometimes the biggest success is simply someone showing up, refusing to give up. If you've crossed that hurdle, it's hard. So refusing to give up that's where the success lies. If you want to look at it closely, even when the world thinks you are behind, you are pushing on. Despite all odds, you're coming against that force. So that one should be celebrated, I must tell you.
So, Tulokwe, here's a key question. How do we strike the balance? How do we encourage people to keep striving without shaming them with unfair comparisons? What do you think?
I would say acknowledge effort as much as outcomes. Celebrate small wins. Create space where progress, even if slow, is still honored. We have this high standard. We take life too seriously and just give me the outcome. That's what I want to see. And that's why people do not want to know how you got the money, how you got it. It's just, you just want to be celebrated. It's just the outcome. It makes people you can even go the route of doing things wrongly and getting that result out for people just to celebrate. Either by a position, nobody cares, And as individuals, we must stop letting stereotypes define our worth. That's what I think.
Beautifully put. I agree with you totally. So, to our listeners, before you judge, pause. Before you compare, remember you don't know their story. Success is not always loud, and sometimes the quiet victories matter most. This is, like we read in the story, this is not to celebrate complacency and to give excuses. for bad behavior or mediocrity and say you don't know my story. This is my not giving excuse. That's what we're saying, but like celebrating small wins as we've been discussing, and not judge based on what you see at that moment.
Awesome, Mama Balale. And to those carrying heavy judgments, be kind to yourself. Keep striving and also celebrate the little steps. Every small progress counts. Don't let anybody put you under pressure. My sister, my brother, don't let anybody put you under pressure. You are winning. And so far, you're doing it one step at a time. You know you're making progress. You know you're very sincere with yourself. Do not let stereotype define you.
Awesome, awesome. So that's a wrap for today's conversation on You Don't Know My Story. We hope this leaves you with empathy, perspective, and encouragement. Go have it and start winning. And do not compare yourself with others. Do not have unhealthy competition with people. Support one another on their path to progress and success.
So join us next week on Bimhunter Hive Storytelling Podcast for another conversation that dives beneath the surface. Thanks for listening and bye everyone. See you in the next episode.
We have come to the end of this episode. Thanks for listening to the Bimhunter Hive podcast. See you in the next episode.